path to being respected in the Yakuza begins with being treated like trash. You leave home dreaming of being an imposing gangster, but reality is quite the opposite. You don't start with katanas or pistols, but with something much more humiliating. Your life as a Koban. And what do you do as a Koban? You spend your days running errands, serving meals, and constantly going out to buy tobacco for the veterans. The worst part of it all is that if you make even one mistake, the response is immediate punishment. You're not considered a true gangster yet, and that's precisely why the older members completely ignore you. In their eyes, you're nothing more than free labor. You earn absolutely 0 yen. You spend your days constantly hungry, you're tired and aching all over, but you never complain. You listen and you work, because the most dangerous thing was for someone to declare, "This one is no good for Yakuza." And that's where your career would end. One of the most feared punishments if you cause trouble is the ritual of silence. You've experienced it more than once. One night, you accidentally break a simple rule. You enter a room without giving any warning. On the following day, you are compelled to kneel down before the entire family, remaining in absolute silence for a full 12 hours, without moving or uttering a single word. And should you faint, they would violently awaken you with blows, forcing you to continue kneeling. You are not permitted to consume any food. No one would speak a single word to you. You could only hear the background conversations and the laughter of your superiors, while you trembled there from cold and shame. You're not yet part of the family, you're simply the doormat they step on before entering. The message was clear. Either you learn obedience, or you disappear, and every now and then, you're forced to endure that punishment. But unlike other rookie Koban, you always manage to endure, because every single time you endure, every time you don't break, you convince yourself that you're one step closer to reaching the next level, as if this humiliation was some kind of entry filter. Now you're a young leader, but don't you dare be mistaken. This isn't freedom, it's just a longer leash. You're no longer scrubbing floors and no one yells at you to clean up vomit or go get tobacco. And at first, everything seems better. Now you walk in a shiny suit, dark glasses even at night, with a group of young people following you as if you were untouchable. They call you a Niki, big brother, and you start to believe it. But you begin to move a certain type of merchandise, making yourself the most exposed. And if the police catch you, what awaits you is much worse than the ritual of silence. Your new job is simple: make money. You organize illegal card games in back alleys where no one is supposed to be. You empty out entire warehouses in the dead of night, selling off whatever you can get your hands on. You visit construction sites and make it perfectly clear that if they want peace, they'll be using your company's trucks. And when a rival gang tries to move in and sell in your territory, you make sure to kick them out. Sometimes you're talking, sometimes you're not. You begin to truly savor the power. Your clothes fit you better, and the money flows through your hands as if it had always belonged there. But there's one crucial detail you must never, ever forget. The money is not yours. Every single week, you make a deep bow and hand over a thick wad of cash to your older brother. That's the tax. A tradition that's as old as the family itself. If you made 5,000, you'd better be ready to hand over 5,000. If you concealed even one bill, you are a thief, and thieves do not receive warnings, only punishments. You may be winning, but you are also burning yourself out, because now the police already know your face, and if a fight breaks out, they won't arrest the boss who gives orders from his comfortable office. They are coming for you. In your very own generation, there were 3 other Koban who started out with you. One of them didn't know how to stay quiet at the proper moment. Another one believed himself invincible and ended up dead in an alley. And the third one simply disappeared after stealing a few envelopes. You're the one who's moving up in rank, so you're now the zone captain. And you don't move up in rank just by making money. You rise when you prove you won't break, not even when everything comes crashing down. Perhaps it was a raid, a fight that spiraled out of control, or simply the inevitable price that sooner or later everyone ends up paying. You spent 3 years locked away in a cold, dark cell. The police offered you deals, hot meals, a reduced sentence, but you didn't utter a single word. And in the Yakuza, that kind of silence is worth more than any fortune. That's why, when you were released, you didn't return to the same old place. You find out that you've already been promoted to zone captain. You no longer run through the streets carrying bags or watch from the corners. Now you sit at a low table, going through lists and counting stacks of money while you puff on a fine cigar. The new Koban watch you with respect, almost like an uncle who knows the system inside out. You teach them the rules, correct their bow when they do it wrong, explain how to intimidate a merchant without needing to yell, and how to command respect with just a look. The young leaders, those from the second level, they come to you with the money. You count it calmly, you keep a fair share, and you make sure the rest goes up the chain as it should, because now you have your own territory. It might be a street full of bars that never close, or several betting parlors hidden behind convenience stores. You manage that piece of the map like a manager, but also like a soldier, and that's something you must never forget. Even with your rank, you're still a part of the force that's operating. When a rival gang crosses the boundaries and steps into your territory, the boss doesn't call a lawyer or wait for explanations. He calls you, and you already know what you have to do. Without a lot of words, you grab a metal bar, you round up the toughest of your crew, and you head out to remind the block who's running things. Because even though everyone respects you now, you are still the one who does the dirty work. And should you fail, there will be no speeches, only the consequences. But naturally, you never fail, and you strictly adhere to the Yakuza code. After a surgical operation in Kobe, a silent raid that successfully recovered territory without a single shot being fired, the higher-ups understood that you were not only obedient, but also remarkably efficient, and that is precisely why they called you. You're about to learn something that isn't written in any manual. There is an intermediate level that not everyone reaches. It is not advertised, has no official name, and is never mentioned in front of newcomers. Sometimes it's called the Guardian of the Ritual. Other times they simply tell you. They will call you, get ready. It has nothing to do with money or territory. It's a test of identity, a clandestine ceremony where loyalty is measured in flesh, bone, and silence. It all begins with a silent invitation, an unmarked envelope slipped beneath your door. Inside, a date, a time, and one word written in black ink. Irizumi. That day you won't be wearing a suit. You'll be going alone, without your mobile phone, without your wallet, not knowing how much time you'll be gone. When you arrive, 3 older men are waiting for you, covered in traditional tattoos, dragons, chrysanthemums, Buddhist demons. These aren't just decorative, they use them as a secret language. Every single line was crafted by hand with traditional needles and plant-based ink, in sessions lasting over 100 hours. The ink, known as Narazumi, is prepared using soot, filtered rainwater, and animal blood. It's not something you can simply buy. It's something someone specifically prepares for you if they believe you truly deserve it. So if you are ever invited to participate in this ritual, you can truly consider yourself very fortunate. But it's also a point of no return. You sit in silence as the master tattoo artist sharpens the bamboo needles. No anesthesia, no music, just the tabori's repetitive tapping on your skin, and the metallic smell that slowly starts to fill the room. For the next 40 hours, your entire back becomes a brutal battlefield. You cannot move, you cannot complain. Every single interruption could ruin the design, and that, my friend, is a grave insult to the family. The motive is not chosen by you, it is chosen by them. If you have been impulsive, they will tattoo an Oni on you, a Japanese demon that represents controlled fury. If you have demonstrated patience and vision, perhaps they will grant you a Ryu, the protective dragon. Every single symbol holds a deep meaning, and each one narrates your personal story within the organization, even though no one will ever tell you directly. Once everything is healed, there are no congratulations. You are ordered to report to a small Shinto shrine, owned by the family since before the Second World War. There, the second step is performed, the Kakureta Chikai, or hidden oath. It involves memorizing a specific series of codes, phrases, and names that are exclusively used by members of the inner circle. If you forget them or repeat them incorrectly, your name will never be spoken again. That is the punishment, total oblivion, as if you had never existed. And if you do it well, there's no public ceremony, only a subtle change. Now, when you walk into a room, the ones above will look at you for 2 seconds longer than they normally would. No one applauds you, but everyone is aware of it. 1 week after the tattoo, they summon you to a tatami room with only 3 people present. On the table, there are 2 porcelain cups and a bottle of dark sake. This is the Sakazuki, the ultimate and most binding oath of loyalty. You drink the sake there in silence, and your cup remains in the superior's hands. From that moment, if one falls, the other must bear the consequences, or you must cut it if they don't have the courage to do so. From that moment, you watch over the family's rituals. If someone commits a serious mistake, like speaking with authorities, concealing funds, or betraying a promise, you're the one who presents a ceremonial blade for them to pod with their little finger as a sign of atonement. Or you handle it gently if they do not have the courage to act on their own. You are the filter, the invisible wall between those who believe they want to be Yakuza and those who truly understand what that means. Having come this far, you are already a respected and trusted member of those in the upper echelons. But after enduring the pain of the ritual, there remains just one more rank to achieve before you can begin to move among the Yakuza's highest echelons. And this, my friend, is truly the ultimate and final test. You will officially become the sacred code bearer, and your most important new responsibility is simply to remember it all. But this isn't about ordinary memory. You must memorize things that cannot be written down, saved on a mobile device, or even repeated aloud more than once. The actual true names of all the top bosses, the precise addresses of their various safe houses, the passwords needed to gain access to frozen funds held in international banks, the specific identity verification methods employed in Hong Kong, and the exact routes for moving illicit merchandise from Osaka all the way to Vladivostok without ever being detected by radar. There are codes that change every week, and others go back decades. They're all in your head. You are the system's backup. If you are ever caught in a raid and you speak, the family will crumble. That is why, before entrusting you with this grave responsibility, the family makes absolutely certain you have nothing left to lose. No wife, no children, and no personal bank accounts. You become nothing more than a ghost with a face. You gather in rooms that have no windows, surrounded by others just like you. There is no hierarchy among you, only shared codes. Once a month, you review together the most recent changes, police movements, alliance adjustments, new contacts, and potential betrayals. And if anyone forgets something, there are consequences. Not because someone punishes them, but because they punish themselves. A lapse can cause an unnecessary death, or worse, an entire operation could collapse. You live in the shadows, but inside you're burning with tension. You can't make mistakes, and you can't show weakness. A code bearer doesn't appear in photographs. If someone asks for you, they change your name. And if you ever decide to leave, you just disappear. And then, the family deals with you. You receive a box with no return address. Inside you find a fake passport with a new name, an address in another country, far away, where no one will ever know you, and a revolver loaded with a single bullet. There's no need for them to explain it to you. It's their way of communicating it. You can embark on a new life, or you can bring this one to an end, but you cannot go back. That is precisely the agreement. That is why the majority do not leave, and because they understand that carrying the code also means shouldering the lives of all the others. They have seen you endure the pain. They have entrusted you with secrets, and now they want to see if you can build something bigger than yourself. Because keeping the code is valuable, but knowing how to use it is what makes you part of the circle that really commands. You begin to notice things that used to go unnoticed. If a veteran leaves his glass full, no one will drink until he takes his first sip. If a younger brother kneels without speaking, it's because he's asking for forgiveness. And if someone gives you a lighter with the cap open, it's because they respect you more than they let on. They won't explain it to you, you simply learn it. And that kind of silent understanding is only truly mastered by those who have already seen the family's true heart. And for that reason, one day, without any ceremony or prior warning, they assign you a brand new role. You become the assistant to the underboss, and that puts you right on the edge of the inner circle. The underboss is the number 2, the second in command of the entire organization. He's the one who leads the war, and you are his general. From the balcony of a towering skyscraper, you gaze at the city lights stretching out far into the distant horizon. You point your finger towards the west and say, "Easy, we'll take that one later." Now you're in charge of an entire region. You have 5 or 6 groups working under your direct command. They bring you the money, you organize it, you clean it, and then you pass it on to the underboss. But your work goes far beyond simply collecting funds. Your main objective is to expand the family's influence. You look at the map, and you spot a port city, currently controlled by a smaller, weaker gang, and you want it for yourself. But this time, you don't send your guys with baseball bats. Now you're much smarter. You send businessmen, you buy the buildings where your rivals operate, you buy up their debts, you cut off their financial oxygen without ever raising your voice. And when they're completely desperate, you then organize a meeting. You sit in a quiet tea house across from the enemy leader. "Join us," you tell them, or simply disappear. Most of them join. And that's how you take the territory without firing a single bullet. You drive an imported luxury vehicle. You wear custom suits that cost more than your very first car, and ultimately you wield significant power. But this also brings a brand new concern. The underboss is watching you very closely, because if you become too popular, or if you start making too much money, he might begin to think that you want his position. And in this particular world, wanting too much is also a serious threat. You have to shine, but not too brightly. You are a strongman, but you still have a master. And after years of constant fighting, enforced silences, and loyalties put to the test, you finally reach a point where you become the second in command. You no longer lead juvenile gangs or rush out to defend your territory with a metal bar. Now you provide assistance to the men who oversee the younger brothers. From your position above, you now coordinate what others are executing. You've traded in the dark alleys for a discreet office, the baseball bat for a laptop, and the loud shouts for strategically placed silences. At first, you are surprised by what you see, because after years of believing you are in a family, you discover that in reality, you're inside a business, a very structured one, with invisible hierarchies and heavy responsibilities. The problem with rising is that suddenly they no longer want to scare you. They want to blame you. One morning, you're called to an urgent meeting. No shouting, no threats. Someone has made a serious mistake. Money that doesn't add up, a contact who talked too much, or an operation that left a trace. And you're in the room, not because you did it, but because you were high enough up to take the fall for it. You run the organization's front companies. It could be a trucking firm, a construction business, or a waste management company. To the public eye, everything appears legal. Invoices, staff, schedules. But you know these businesses aren't meant to generate clean profits, but to launder the dirty money that constantly flows beneath the surface. You're also in command of all internal logistical operations. When the principal needs to travel, for example, you meticulously plan out every single last detail. What specific route to take, which armored vehicles to utilize, how many security personnel will accompany him, and exactly where they will be strategically positioned. If everything proceeds without a hitch, then absolutely no one ever notices your presence. But if the boss arrives a minute late, or if anything feels out of place, then it's all your fault. It doesn't matter who failed in practice. You always carry 2 mobile phones in your pocket. One vibrates for company issues like payments, meetings, and budgets. The other is just for family matters, and you never mix them up. You come to learn that your true worth lies in keeping everything in motion without ever leaving a trace. When you finally reach this particular point, the street fights are well and truly behind you. Your name no longer circulates solely among mere novices, but rather among the men who genuinely move the pieces on the board. Now you're the head of operations, and that means that when politics is finished, they call you. On the table in front of you, there's a detailed map of the city with hand-drawn marks. Beside it, 3 black, freshly cleaned pistols. They've not been used in any crime yet. That is why they're here. A rival family from the west has crossed the line. Yesterday, they killed 2 of your men in an alley. There will be no more warnings. It is time to respond. But you are not the one who pulls the trigger. You are far too valuable for that. You are the one who decides who lives and who disappears. 3 young men appear before you. They don't say a word, and they are quite nervous. You don't speak much yourself. You hand them the weapons and a single photograph. A man eating dinner at a street-side grill on 3rd Street. You simply tell them to go and not return until the job is done. They depart, and you are left waiting. You switch on the police scanner, a small radio device that allows you to monitor the internal police frequencies. A few minutes later, the confirmation arrives over the radio. Shots fired on 3rd Street. All available units respond. You look at your watch, knowing your team has exactly 3 minutes to escape before the police block the area. Then your phone vibrates. It's the leader of the group. "We're trapped," they whisper to you. A patrol car blocks the bridge, and you have to make a decision in an instant. You scan the map, quickly reviewing all possible escape routes. You're playing a game of chess with real human lives. "Abandon the car," he orders without hesitation. "Run through the subway tunnel. A clean car will be waiting for them on the other side." You hang up, and then you call another group. You instruct them to start a brawl at a bar on the far side of the city. The diversion works. Patrols pivot towards the new incident. The road clears, and your team escapes. You don't sleep for 3 days. Black coffee, cigarette after cigarette. You coordinate more attacks. You reclaim corners block by block. There's no room for error. If a soldier is captured, you let him rot in silence, for that protects the others. Until the news you've been waiting for finally arrives, the rival boss has fled the city. The war is over, and this time you have won. But at this level, your most important function isn't to lead, but to protect. When the stakes are this high, the police don't look for the soldiers. They look for the father. And you are the wall that stands between them and the supreme leader. If proof emerges, you step up. If there's a crime, you take the blame. If a culprit is needed, it's you. You go to trial, you go to prison. 10 years if necessary. And you don't doubt it. It is your duty. Everyone knows that you are the heir. You have money, power, and absolute respect. But you're not yet at the very top. You are just one step away from the throne. And that is the most dangerous place of all, the supreme Yakuza. 20 men are kneeling before you, their heads bowed low. Their gaze is fixed firmly on the tatami mats. Nobody moves. You don't need to say your name. Everyone already knows it. You are the father, the Oyabun, the ultimate voice, the very face that no one must ever defy. You no longer handle the money, nor do you sign any contracts, nor issue any direct threats. Between you and the crime, there are layers upon layers of men who would fall without hesitation before the slightest risk even touches you. Your name doesn't appear on any official record, your voice is never recorded, and your presence needs no announcement. But it's enough for you to whisper an order to your second in command, and 3 days later someone will vanish without a trace. You convene with the leaders of the other powerful families. Upon a silent table, the entire country is spread out, meticulously drawn on a map. The various zones of influence are negotiated as if they were mere slices of a cake. And though no one dares to say it openly, it is you who ultimately decides who will prosper and who will slowly begin to suffocate, starting tomorrow. Once a year, all the regional bosses secretly travel to a hidden ryokan in the mountains. There, the Shokai no Kage, the Assembly of Shadows, is held. It is forbidden to carry cell phones, weapons, or escorts. Reports are presented on paper, reviewed without comment, and then burned in front of everyone as a symbol of loyalty and oblivion. You preside over that meeting in silence, because true leaders impose their will without ever raising their voice. But from the height of your throne, you only see enemies. Your best ally fantasizes about taking your place. Your subordinates learn to smile, all the while plotting their opportune moment. And the police have created an entire division dedicated exclusively to you. They intercept your calls, they follow your cars, they photograph your home, they monitor your contacts, and they surround you as if you were a fortified city. You know this. That's why you no longer go out. You don't visit supermarkets, you don't have a social life. You reside in an isolated mansion, encircled by towering walls, thermal cameras, motion sensors, and multiple layers of security. No one approaches you without passing through numerous filters. Your chef was thoroughly investigated. Your doctor was approved by a vote. And yet, you don't repeat meals 2 days straight, nor sleep in the same room 2 nights straight. You've survived internal wars, betrayals, and purges. You were forced to smile at the son of the man you yourself had ordered erased from existence. And while everyone was celebrating your ascent, you understood that being the supreme leader is a heavy burden. Everyone obeys you without question, but even at this level, there are decisions you cannot make alone. And that is why, once every 2 weeks, you gather with your inner council, 5 senior men, each with at least 30 years of service within the organization, and every single one of them responsible for a crucial part of the empire. One manages the distribution routes, another handles all political contacts, one oversees the front companies operating abroad, another controls the flow of money from the casinos, and the last one hardly ever speaks, he just observes. No one casts a vote, no one is allowed to interrupt. They speak in turns and you listen carefully, and in the end, you make the final decision. In that room, where no one else is permitted to enter, it's the only space where you can truly let your guard down for a few minutes. Because in there, you are not a god. You are a man surrounded by history, ambition, and potential betrayal. Once years ago, one of the counselors didn't show up for a meeting. 3 days later, his car was discovered in a river, and the driver's seat was completely empty. No one asked any questions. It was simply accepted that he had crossed the line. You are one of the most powerful men in the entire nation, and simultaneously, most heavily scrutinized. You know there's no true retreat from this life, that retirement simply does not exist for you, that the only ones who have ever truly abandoned this throne did so either in handcuffs, or covered in blood, or placed inside a coffin. Those below covet your status, power, and women, and somehow that reminds you of your beginnings as a Koban. But a time comes when neither money, respect, nor power can bring you peace. After so many years making decisions others wouldn't even dare to imagine, something inside you runs out, and you decide to heed that spark of freedom you've always carried within. One morning, without warning, you hand in your phones, close your planner, and you simply leave. You vanish completely off the map. You settle into an old house in the mountains, surrounded by thick fog and absolute silence. There, far from the towering skyscrapers and the ever-present cameras, you train the younger generation. You teach them about loyalty, strategy, and patience. You teach them that true power isn't shouted, it's sustained. Sometimes old leaders send emissaries. They offer you to return, but you just smile and don't reply, because now you understand something you couldn't see before. The true leader is the one who no longer needs to command. Don't forget to support this content by subscribing and watching this other very interesting video you'll love.